because I love what you are going into, especially in terms of healing through this process. Because I think in today's society, when we're thinking about health and especially physical health, what we're really looking at is the aesthetic of it, right? We want to look good. Like, does the world visibly perceive me as good looking? And that's usually the motivation for trying to get into shape, getting healthy, eating right, you know? And when you're speaking about health from a, physiological and spiritual setting, it really makes a lot of sense. So for people, the physiology between mind and body, because I love that you made the analogy about eating, because it's literally the expression is stuffing down your emotions, right? You're stuffing it down. And so what is that relationship between mind and body that causes us to get into these states whereby we need to come to a, fasting retreat?
Yeah, I love the questioning here. And there's multiple directions at which I could take this. There's a spiritual conversation that a lot of people maybe want to have, etc. And then there's some people maybe aren't willing to go there with that type of conversation. But the body, mind, spirit connection is powerful. And I also love that you're willing to go there with the truth. The truth is we all just want to look good and beautiful and not be judged and accepted. And a lot of times when we do the very actions that create a situation of ugliness, we see the ugliness within ourselves, and we're all conscious beings observing what's happening out there. And when we can see people look at us and judge us in a certain way, that's like knives, wounds. And if you're feeling like, oh, everybody thinks I'm ugly, people don't like me, people judge me, they think I'm fat, what's that going to do? On a wound level, it's more trauma. And so it drives us into a situation of, I don't want to go in public, I just want to sit back. And what makes me feel better? Well, when I eat ice cream, it tastes sweet and good, and so I feel better. When I have chocolate, and so it's like there's this separation and potential to just go dark, dark, dark. And I think if there's one piece that most people are not aware of that I'd like to get across, is that it's not just physically what's going on that presents how we look into the world. It's also mentally and emotionally. So when I show up in life and I want to be of service and I love people and I love myself, this has been a big thing for so many programs. People that come to my clinical fasting programs, at some point we get to this point where I ask individually, do you love yourself? And for me, being someone who does love myself, it's shocking to hear that somebody could say no to that. And in fact, most of the people that come to my programs, when I'm sitting with them one-on-one, I'm like, ask them the question, do you love yourself? And then I really hold space. They can't say yes. They're just like, no, I don't. And then it's just like, wow, that's it. So that's what needs to shift and change. And how do we go about a process of getting you to see your true self and love yourself? Because everybody, I don't care what you look like, everybody is beautiful. Everybody is unique in some way. And for someone like myself, or somebody who has learned to see the positive only, you'll see the hairstyle, the uniqueness, you'll see the clothing uniqueness, you'll see the uniqueness in their eyes or lips or nose or ears or whatever it is. And you can find these traits. Or if you simply just have a conversation in a certain way with people, you'll see their beautiful soul shine through in some way with whatever they're passionate about. And that's the thing that needs to be amplified, and others need to see about that individual that's unique and say, wow, you are beautiful because you have this piece of the puzzle and these things that are so unique that can, shine and glow. And so, yeah, I think that a big part of looking good physically is the belief that we have in ourselves and how we show up in the world. And I genuinely believe, like, if I'm a courageous person, I'm helping people and I'm doing good things, what I say, what I speak, what I think, and what I do actually changes my face in certain ways. And this is called physiognomy. So it's the knowledge that you can actually look at a person's lips, nose, eyes, face, body structure, and kind of know a lot about if they're happy, if they're outgoing, if they're, all these different types of things. You can see it, it shows up. The simple way of kind of describing this is if someone's always kind of sad and not feeling good, the corners of the mouth will actually turn down. And somebody who's genuinely kind of just happy and balanced and present, it just stays straight. And someone who's like happy all the time, you'll see these certain lines and things that show up that are kind of a lasting effect of happiness and joy. So I think that if you can get this message across to individuals that, hey, we have the capacity to go into a situation of fasting, for example, and as you're fasting and clearing these traumas, mentally and emotionally, you're in a situation of forgiveness and a higher level of joy and love, and things come through that will physically start to change your facial appearance. Not only that, but in the situation of fasting, being in ketosis, the body's going to reduce fat. And when you reduce fat in ketosis, specifically from fasting, what are released also are called embryonic style stem cells. So these embryonic style stem cells, if you've ever researched stem cell technology, like it's amazing what it has the capacity to do for healing. And so these stem cells have something called pluripotency. So after about 3 days of fasting on water or no calories, you have these stem cells traveling through everywhere, through every, artery, capillary, vein, through your body, through your lymphatic system. And they have the capacity to take the place of either weak or worn out or cells that need to be eliminated. And so what's happening in this process of mentally and emotionally kind of upgrading and being able to see that show on somebody's face on a very physical level, the fat, believe it or not, is the potential for more stem cells. So the truth is, the more fat you have, the more potential for stem cells you have to be released in your body and to actually regenerate everything. So like University of Southern California, this guy, Professor Longo, wrote all these articles and kind of proved and put out all this science about these stem cells and said within 3 days, there's enough stem cells to completely rebuild your immune system. But beyond 3 days, that's where if you've had a stab wound, if you've injured your knee, if you have a skin condition, if you have a brain problem or trauma or something that's off from a brain injury, these stem cells can actually start to become new neurons. They can build any part of the body. And a perfect example of this is we have this woman named Jennifer Ritchie. And anybody watching could go look up YouTube, Jennifer Ritchie, last name Ritchie, Ritchie. She, a beautiful young woman, fell off a 2-story building and shattered her lower vertebrae and completely broke everything. So she had these titanium rods installed, and the medical doctor said, look, we need to cut function in order to save function. So they did something called an iatrogenic surgery, and they cut the spine. So when you cut the spine, it's called a complete paraplegic, meaning you can never have any function or movement beyond that injury site. So below her lower back, she would never have feeling or function ever again. And she's on all kinds of medications and doing this stuff. And she just happened to live in the same area as my father. My father heard about this woman. She was on the news when it happened, all this. And she's a complete paraplegic. She's pretty much skinny and on pills just to go poo and pretty much dying. And my father meets her and says, look, there's this thing called fasting. And when you fast, the body goes in, it clears out scar tissue called autolysis. The body creates embryonic style stem cells. And these stem cells have the capacity to rebuild damaged tissue. And my father's like, I believe you can heal yourself if you're willing to go through this process. And this woman, if you watch the video, she says it, why she did it. But most people wouldn't just do this, especially being as skinny as she did. She actually did an extended water fast. And after the extended water fast, she just was basically drinking smoothies and having aloe vera and eating this food stuff we have called pulse, which is like a certain mixture of nuts and seeds and roots, you know, ancient whole food. And she started wiggling her toe. And so all the doctors, and we did a little mini doco of like the physical therapist and the doctors and showing the scans and all the things. So you can see that it's totally real. And they all freaked out. Oh my God, this is impossible. You know, if you sever the spinal cord, you can never move anything again. How is this possible if she's wiggling her toe? And of course, every step of the way, they're like, oh, but you'll never wiggle another toe. And then she's wiggling multiple. Oh, we've done great, but you'll never move the other toe. And then she's moving this one. And over time and distance, she's moving her feet, she's moving her legs. Long story short, she went through all the physical therapy, like literally on these things inside of a pool, just moving her body, through leg braces, the whole thing, until a couple years later, literally ran a marathon unassisted. Yeah, legit. And these are the types of experiences that I've seen since 13 years of age, people healing from these radical, uncurable, you know, processes. So if you can regrow a spinal cord fully, what else is possible with stem cells? And then, you know, when I was about 28 years old, I set up a clinical fasting situation in Bali, Indonesia, and started to facilitate and run these fasting situations like my father did when I was a young teenager. And from there, I really opened up wanting to look at the different modalities and mental, emotional side of things, not just physical, and really developed all the foundational stuff my father taught me. I wanted the science and to go deep on each individual area to really help people with not only detoxification and healing, but lifestyle in general, so you never get to these points, you know, of major disease.